So, a little while ago, I made a video saying that I'm gonna 100% the main story of Super Mario 3D World while crouching. And I did do it. I beat the entire main story while completely crouching, and it was really hard. So today, I'm giving myself 12 hours to 100% Super Mario 3D World, and the results will surprise you, as usually it takes about 20 hours to 100% the game, and today I'm giving myself 12 hours. Can I do it? We'll have to see. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now let's get into the video. And we're off. We lock in Peach, skip the first cutscene, and start playing through the first world of Super Mario 3D World, which is overall pretty easy, I must admit, as it only took about 20 minutes to get through, so I've got no complaints there, as the first level is literally a cakewalk, the second level being your stereotypical underground Mario level, and the rest just being a fun time, with level 1 castle being the hardest in the entire world, and by hardest, I mean just as hard as the last level in the world is supposed to be, which isn't that hard. And with that, the first world is completed with flying colors, but before we head into the second world, I want to give you all a heads up for the future, as I will say that one of the hardest things to do in this challenge wasn't playing through the levels, wasn't getting through them in the least amount of time possible, but was remembering where all the green stars and stamps were, as well as getting to the top of the flagpole in every single level. As many times during this playthrough, I totally forgot where the stars and stamps were, along with me failing to get to the top of the flagpole in every level and having to replay them. So yeah, just remember that for the future if you see the time increasing for certain worlds. But now we set off to World 2, and just like World 1, there weren't many issues that got in my way, and pretty much all the levels were really easy to get through, but what did get in my way was my own idiotic brain that got way too confident in my ability to run through these levels really fast, and I ended up just making really stupid mistakes that cost me lives and lots of time. As in level 2-2, there's a section where you have to use the moving platforms to get to the cloud in order to retrieve the green star in it. But me, of course, using a cat suit, just thought I could just jump the gap and skip the waiting phase for the platforms, which of course resulted in me dying like an idiot. But after failing one time, I learned my lesson, took the long way, grabbed the green star, and completed the level without dying a single time after that. But I think other than that, the only other level that I found somewhat difficult was the last level, of course, as you had to maintain having a bullet gun on your head the entirety of the level till the end so you can get the last green star, and if you lose it, you have to restart the level. So that was sort of difficult since I was trying to rush the level, but unfortunately I did have to replay it once since I did end up losing it midway through the level due to the spikes, which always get me one way or another. But after I replayed the level, I got the green star, beat Boom Boom, hit the top of the flagpole, and moved on to World 3 as we complete World 2 in about 25 minutes. And just know, even though this is looking like good pace, we still have the bonus worlds to worry about, and of course the feared Champions Row, but we'll worry about that when we get to it. So for now, let's get moving on to World 3, which didn't have too many hiccups other than level 3-6, where I managed to screw up the last green star one too many times, and since I did end up switching from Peach to Toad to get through levels quicker, I didn't get the leisure of having floating abilities, even though I did end up dying like an idiot even when I had the catsuit, but that's not important. So I ended up going back to World 1 and replaying the first level to farm up a catsuit in order to get the star to beat the level. But other than that, World 3 was pretty much the easiest world so far after World 1, and after that we leave World 3, get interrupted by King Snake over here trying to screw up our flow, but he was no match for us as we managed to beat him in World 3 in about 35 minutes, which is longer than World 2, but I blame me being an idiot in 3-6 for the extra 10 minutes. And now we reach Worlds 4 and 5, which were both honestly complete breezes, but of course a little more difficult, as in World 5 there's a level called Cakewalk Flip, which deals with the flipping platforms every time you jump and having to keep your clone alive in order to grab the stamp at the end of the level. And after that we move on to 5-7, which didn't pose that much of a challenge, and the castle level, which had some difficult green stars to capture, but overall pretty easy, including the boss fight, which is a complete wash. Now this is where a really big issue came about. So after I finished off World 5, I ended up pausing the game to take a break, which also meant pausing the timer as well. And for those of you that don't know, I use a program called Live Split, and in order to start, stop, and reset the time, I use my keyboard shortcuts, and well, I forgot that these shortcuts were enabled when responding to a message on Discord, and I ended up pressing the reset button on the timer, meaning that 2.5 hours that I just spent going through the game was for nothing. And you know, I try not to half-ass stuff on this channel, which will prove false later on in this video, but I wanted to do this the right way. And when this happened, I spent literally 10 minutes contemplating what the hell I was gonna do. And after a long conversation with voices in my head, I decided to restart the game from the very beginning. Was I mad? Yes. Was I annoyed at myself? I definitely was. But it is what it is, and I wanted to do this the right way. So I started a new recording and got on with it. Oh yeah, by the way, if you see right here, there's a save file in World Castle. That's because the recording I was just talking about literally never happened, as my dumbass played throughout the entire game up to World Castle and didn't record a single thing. So I restarted the game again for the third time. So I hopped in, chose Toad off the bat to get as far as possible in the shortest amount of time. But of course, that came with a lot of difficulty, as at this point, I was so frustrated. I had restarted the game twice already, adding up to about 5 hours in wasted total time. So when I got into this, I was trying to get through the game as fast as possible. And we saw what happened when I tried to play the game as fast as possible, as I ended up dying and dying and dying in the most stupidest places possible, where I usually don't die. Like the cloud part, for example, where I died once in the original file because I was trying to go fast. I died 4 times this time. Remember that trapeze level? Of course not, because it was freaking easy the first time around. I ended up spending nearly 20 minutes on that level purely because of the spikes and the flagpole in the ending. I even changed to Luigi for God's sake, because in my head, he jumped the highest, so he'd be able to hit the flagpole easy. Oh yeah, he definitely hit the flagpole, but somehow not the top, which I question, because what's even the point of his power if he can't jump high enough to hit the top of the flagpole with that much swinging momentum? But of course, to get to the top, I had to revisit an old friend in level 1-1 to get 2 cat suits in order to hit the top of the flagpole, which I did countless of times for this level alone. But with that and World 5 completely replayed again from the very beginning, we beat the world in 16 minutes less than the original file and get back to where we left off. And by we, I mean where I left off, since World 6 was pretty easy but did take 40 minutes overall. I don't know how, but it just did. Alright, so World Castle. This world, unlike all the others, did have more challenges than all the other worlds combined, since of course this is a sort of end game world. And also look at how the freaking place looks. It's literally all fire. But now let's get to the levels, and the first roadblock in the way of our success is level Castle 3, Red Hot Run, which overall wasn't supposed to be such a hard level, but because I used Toad, it made it a lot more difficult, since of course he didn't have any real powers other than fast running, and for some reason I didn't think to use Peach right off the bat, even though there are speed pads that make Peach essentially the same speed as Toad. But that's beside the point. I was an idiot and thought I'd get through the level faster, which is somewhat true, but did end up taking a lot more time, since by the time I got to the end of the level to reach the flagpole after dying a couple times, Toad wasn't even able to reach the top of the flagpole. Like, I either jumped at the wrong time or I needed a cat suit to reach the top, but all down the hill that Toad doesn't have the leg strength to make it to the top of that pole. And since that happened, I had to replay the level again and died again and again and again until I finally beat it and got the stamp along with it. But once I got done with that, we get to probably the hardest underwater level in the entire game, and that's level Castle 6. And it isn't hard by means of mechanics whatsoever. It's honestly not that hard. But what is hard is getting the green stars, especially the third one, as throughout the level, you need to keep your fire flower and not get hit once, as if you don't have the fire flower by the end, you can't destroy the objects inside the pipe to actually get the star, which is honestly pretty hard if you haven't played the game before. But for me, I had to retry the level once, since I of course got hit in the most stupidest way possible. But other than that, this level isn't that bad to get through as long as you're careful. But I think the only quarrel I have with this world is the last level, and the reason why I have a problem with it is the fact that in order to actually get to the second star is to have a catsuit on hand, as there literally isn't any other feasible way of getting it, which means that I had to exit the level, go back to 1-1, get a catsuit, come back and climb the damn wall to get the star after restarting the entire level over again. I said this in my crouching challenge all that time ago, and I still stand by it. If you're gonna have a star in a level, have the catsuit needed in the level to actually get it. Now, if it was a secret pipe or something, I'd understand, but it isn't. It's literally a collectible you need to 100% the game, and that collectible you should get without needing a suit from a different level. But other than that little inconvenience, we get the star, beat Bowser, and save the fairies. Of course not, that was a joke, because we all know Bowser never dies until he gets to World 8 that's based all around him to fill his own ego. So that's where we're headed, to World Bowser. Surprisingly, it went pretty well for our final world, as most of the levels were honestly easier than I remember them being. But that's not to say that some of them weren't hard, because yes, there were hard levels, such as level Bowser 6, A Beam in the Dark, which is a very difficult haunted house level, as you need to get through the entire level with a flashlight on your head, along with having to play as Luigi, since you have to get the stamp at the very beginning of the level. Now, the level as a whole isn't the hardest thing in the world, but the only really difficult sections in the level are the parts where you're standing on a small moving platform as enemies come towards you, and you have to dodge them while trying not to fall off. Specifically, the straight platform in the ending section, which is just painfully long and just made super difficult because the dry bones flying at you, and the fact that your light is never in the perfect position to destroy all the ghosts at once. It's just annoying. But after that, it's just trying to hit the top of the flagpole, which I was so scared of missing. But of course, in the plain Luigi, I got nothing to worry about. But now we get to Bowser 7, which was the bane of my existence in the perma crouching challenge, and of course here as well, but way easier. Now, the reason why this is so hard is mostly the ending, where you need to get the stamp without taking damage and not fall in the lava, while also being able to catch the cube to move through the level, which is a lot easier said than done, as I now we'll see that Nintendo really tried their hardest to make their final levels in this world as hard as they could make them in the main game. But other than that, I think the last star in this level has to be the hardest to obtain, as you need to jump and get it, while also being able to stay on the platform on the highest side of the rectangular prism. And as you see here, I literally almost perish in the flames of hell. But of course, in the end, all is well that ends well. I think I used that right. As we get to the top of the flagpole, finish the level, and move on to the final level in the main game, which is literally just a boss fight. For those of you that haven't played the game, the last level is literally just a level long boss fight, which honestly is really cool and one of the best level designs in any 3D Mario game ever. But as a level in general, it was pretty easy. There were some points where I could have messed up and died, but overall it was pretty easy to handle as we hit the power block, defeat Bowser, and hit the final flagpole and beat the main game in 4 hours, 28 minutes, and 23 seconds. Now, as all of you can see here, I stopped the timer, and the reason for that is at the time I was going to half-ass this video and just do the main game in 5 hours, but then I quickly realized that there was no way, and I mean no way, a new challenge video on the Force channel was I gonna half-ass anything. So the next day I pulled up the game, started the timer, and got straight onto the bonus world. And this is where the real challenge begins, because if you thought any of the other levels in the main game were hard, well, you're gonna be put on a ride from this point forward, because from World Star and onwards is where Super Mario 3D World really puts your skills to the test. So let's get started, shall we? And by get started, I mean being stuck on the first level for literally 20 minutes. Yes, you heard that correctly. I spent around 21 minutes on the very first level of World Star, which was definitely not on my bingo card coming into this challenge. But let me explain why this took so long to begin with. So if you watch me play on screen in front of you, you're probably asking yourself, why the hell is he running up a random wall? Well, it's because from playing through this game before, I knew that one of the stars was hiding up on the wall and needed a catsuit to actually get it. So I had the brilliant idea of running up part of the wall that potentially contained the star, but to my surprise, it didn't. And I ended up falling down with Peach doing her gymnastics finish as the lasers approached her and single-handedly making herself lose the catsuit because she wanted style points. Now, since I lost the catsuit, I ended up giving up on the star and moving on, thinking it's probably later on in the level. And as I got through the level, I ended up meeting the first star in the level that I actually got to see. And when I got it, it showed that it was the second star, meaning that I had to leave the level, get a catsuit from 1-1, and come back to get the star. And even after leaving the level and coming back, I still ended up dying numerous times after that. And even when I did get to the section with the first star, I ended up screwing it up as well, because I'm actually a complete moron and can't time the ball properly with the flipping platforms. But alas, I finally did it and got through the level with no problems, except I managed to miss the stamp out of all of that. So that meant I had to go back in the level, get the stamp, which was in the most obvious place by the way, and get to the end of the level after 21 full minutes. All I gotta say is I'm an idiot and I'm sorry, but I will say that there isn't any other level in this game other than the last one, of course, that caused me this much grief. I think, yeah, that should be it. But after that, we beat the second level in World Star and gained a game-changing addition to the party in Rosalina. And if you guys don't know how she works, she has her spinning move like in Mario Galaxy, which is essentially a double jump, which is going to be very useful in the other levels. But after that, we get through the rest of the world pretty easily. And yes, I say that even though it took over an hour to beat, but this was mostly me not being able to find the green stars in a timely manner, and also not getting the top of the flagpole sometimes. So these levels were restarted and played again over and over. But nevertheless, we did finish the world anyways, and we still had about 7 hours left to beat this thing. And honestly, it's looking pretty good so far. So now that we're done with World Star, let's move on to World Mushroom, which was pretty easy compared to the levels in World Star, as literally every level from now on to World Flower are just variations on levels that we've already played in the main game, but changed to add a little more difficulty to the level. World Mushroom didn't have too many hiccups from what I recall, other than Mushroom 3 and 7, which I did die on, but 7 a few more times, as I did find myself making really stupid mistakes, as well as struggling to get the green stars on Mushroom 3. But other than that, the world wasn't that big a deal, as it only took about 20 minutes to complete, which is really good at this point. But now we reach World Flower, and just before we get into it, I'm gonna say it took just over an hour to complete at an hour and 12 minutes, which means that this world was pretty hard to do, as it came with a whole new set of challenges, as it appears that World Mushroom was just a warm-up at this world. So let's get started with Flower 1, which is just a remix of Switch Scramble Circuits from the first world, and the level in itself isn't that difficult other than the second green star that you need to get by bouncing on these platforms, which is honestly easier said than done, as these are actually a struggle, man. I think it took me about 3 tries to fully get it, and then realized that it wasn't the first star when I thought it was. So after I fully completed the level, I went back in and searched throughout the entire level and realized after searching it up that it was right behind me at the start, and I felt like such an idiot. But other than the second green star, the level in itself wasn't that big a deal. It just took way too much time than it should have. But now we get to probably the hardest level in probably the entire game, excluding anything in World Crown, and that's level Flower 3. Yeah, only the third 3rd level in the world, and this level is the hardest to me strictly because of the green stars, as in order to actually get all the stars, you need to light up all the flames in order for them to appear, as this is not an easy task at all. As many of the situations you put into to get the green stars, the second one in specific is just evil, since you have to dodge fireballs coming at you from other piranhas and be able to stay on the moving platforms in general. But the biggest thing is that you can't get hit a single time, or else you just flat out lose your fire flower for the rest of the level, since after you get to the section, they only offer 1 extra fire flower, and honestly, most of the time, I'd rather just die than run all the way back to start to get it and run all the way back to where I left off. And also, there aren't any checkpoints whatsoever, so if you die, you have to restart the level from the very beginning of the level, and most of the times, it's you dying from really stupid things than you trying to kill yourself to go back to the beginning. But the one thing I like about this game is that once you collect a star, you have it forever. So unless you leave the level, regardless if you die, you keep whatever you collect, except for the items, of course. I know they probably changed from the Wii U version, because I remember the Wii U version being so much harder than this version. But yeah, after you get the 2nd star, you get to the end where you light the final flames to spawn the last green star, and the intent is to jump on the piranha's head to collect the star and hit the top of the flagpole. But I really didn't want to take that chance and miss the pole for no reason. So I just took the easy way out and killed the piranha and used the cat suit I had from the last level to climb to the top of the flagpole, and that was level 3 completed. But now let's get to level flower 4. Yes, the 4th level in World Flower. Faster 4 Fire Bros, which is one of the harder time levels in the bonus worlds, as it's pretty much the exact same levels before, but just with 30 seconds on the clock. And if you guys don't know, throughout the entire level, you get given chances to add time to the clock by picking up the little stopwatches scattered around the place. But this also means that you have to do all of that while also collecting the green stars, which just makes it a lot more harder if you don't already know where they are. Luckily for me though, I knew somewhat where they were gonna be, but the first time I did this level, it took me forever. But this time around, it didn't take me that long to do, as I only ended up dying on one part, and that was the ending with the fire bro stacking on the Goombas. But other than that, for me, it wasn't that big a deal, but for a first timer, maybe. Now, that was honestly the last real level that gave me the most problems, but I'm gonna speak about the boss rush, as this is literally the first time I'm speaking about these mini bosses in this video, which wasn't really a surprise, as they're all literally a walk in the park other than the clown boss. But for those of you that haven't played this game before, this is the final boss level of the game, in which you have to go through these 5 boxes to collect all 5 keys by defeating all 5 bosses in the time the game gives you. And this time around, I did manage to do it on the first try and didn't have that much issues with it. But again, when I did play this for the first time, I had such a hard time with it, as most times I would just be losing on time. But if you have a good grasp on the game mechanics and know how the bosses operate, it really isn't that hard, and I just breezed through it like it was nothing. But now with the boss blitz out of the way and one of the mystery boxes I forgot to do in Mushroom World, we finally unlock the final world. And when we take the rocket up further into space, we're met with the final 3 levels of Super Mario 3D World, which are the final Toad level, the huge mystery box, and what you've all been waiting for, Champions Road. Now, if I'm being honest, the Toad level and the mystery box level were really easy, as the mystery box was just essentially all the past mystery box levels smashed all into one, and the Toad one was kind of challenging, but the Toad level, it really wasn't hard. But now let's just talk about Champions Road, because as of now, I have spent close to 8 hours playing this game, and I knew this level was going to take a long time to beat, and with only 4 hours left on the clock, I had to get going. So I went on to my first try of Champions Road using my favorite girl, Rosalina, and if I'm being honest, the last time I beat this level was probably 4 years ago, so it's been a while. And my first attempt at this level was absolutely horrifying, as you actually can't use her spin move while having the cat suit on. So in my opinion, it's just way harder, and yes, I know using Rosalina is kind of a cop-out since she does have a double jump that makes it easier, but I'm trying to beat this as fast as I can, so allow me on this one. So for the rest of the run, I put as Rosalina without any power-ups, and when I say this level's difficulty stands no matter how many times you've beaten it, it definitely does, as this level is honestly as hard as I remember it being, because since you don't get a single checkpoint throughout the entirety of the level, like most of the other final levels in Mario games, but you also get no power-ups whatsoever, which for me is good, but for others using Mario, for example, who has no special abilities whatsoever, it's really difficult. But with that, the final grind begins, and grind that I do, as I just kept dying and dying and dying and dying over and over and over and over again, to the point where I was just getting careless and just trying to rush to the ending of the level, since the actual level in general isn't too bad if you take your time and not make stupid decisions. It's just a more difficult platformer, if I'm being honest. But the final section has absolutely nothing to do with platforming, as it just turns into a full-on bullet hell section, as you turn into the Flash and get put onto perma speed, where you have to run onto speed boost and actually jump your way to the final square, where on speed boost you have to collect all 5 keys in order to unlock the final box to beat the level, but along with that, you have to dodge the multiple laser circles coming your way, which is a lot easier said than done. And when I tell you, I died so much, I swear I found the most optimal method to get past the beginning of the level, and past the Piranha Plats as well, to the point where I was diving like I was in Super Mario Odyssey. Like, when the hell did they add diving to this game? But for 2 pretty much straight hours with some breaks in between, I sat there and grinded this level. I grinded and grinded and grinded until finally, at the 5-hour and 28-minute mark, something changed from within me. I had figured out the code, and well, let me stop talking and show you for myself. And there you have it, Super Mario 3D World Champions Road defeated without taking a single hit of damage. And all I had to do was roll through the thank you screen that I always love to see from Nintendo, grab the final stamp, and overthink the hell out of the top of the flagpole before jumping to my success and stopping the timer at the final time of 9 hours, 58 minutes, and 46 seconds. But if we add a little more time after I stopped the timer from beating the main game, we managed to 100% Super Mario 3D World in 10 hours, 3 minutes, and 4 seconds. And with that, I'm gonna let In the Moment Me take over for the ending. See ya! I didn't have my camera rolling or my mic on. I was just playing it. That legitimately probably took 2 hours to beat. 2.5 hours. I don't know exactly on the video, but it'll show. I only had 2 hours left. I had like literally almost 2 hours left. I had like 7 hours, 31 minutes. I was honestly scared I wasn't gonna get it, but I finally did it. Holy shit. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.